This is going to be a pretty quick video. I just want to highlight some of the developer tools that Google Chrome gives us to work with HTML and CSS. So this is the to-do list that we made in the last video. It's still as ugly as it was then. And I want to just highlight two things. So the first, we can actually view page source just like we did on other people's HTML way early on in this course. But that's not all that useful. We can't really change this or anything. But what we can do is right click and click on Inspect Element. And what this will do is launch the element inspector. So you'll see we get this new view here. So there's a bunch of tabs. We're going to learn about all of these in time. For now, we're just starting at this Elements tab. So what this is it's actually a nice interactive representation of all of the HTML elements. So you can see we have our doc type, we have HTML, we have the head, the body, our H1, our UL, and our LIs, as well as the inputs. And the first thing I want you to notice is as I hover over these elements, so let's hover over this H1, it's actually highlighted up here. So I hover here, and it's highlighted to show me here's the H1 that you're talking about, or here's the UL, or here's the input, the checkbox, here's the text, and so on. So this is useful in its own right just to debug things and see what space an element is taking up and where it falls in the flow of a document. But what I really want to focus on is the CSS tab over here, the Styles tab. So let's select one of these things. Let's select this LI with class completed, the top or the second one. And I'm going to click on it. And over here, I'm actually seeing an interactive view of all of the styles that this element has applied to it currently. So we see, because of the dot completed class, it has this text decoration line through. Because of the LI code that I wrote for all LIs, it has a red border. And what we can do is actually turn these on or off. So I now have toggled all LI's red borders off. I can turn them back on, and I can change this live here to be 6 pixels or 10 or 1 pixel. I can click on the color and pick a new color, give it a blue border. One thing I will highlight though, this does not actually change our file at all. This is only in the browser. As soon as I refresh this page or close the window, my changes go away. So this is useful in really two different ways. One is to work on your own code, your own page, and test things out. See what happens when you change the color, or you change the border, or you change some other attribute, some other property, and just visually see it immediately. The other thing that it's useful for is actually looking at someone else's code. So I have MDN open, just the home page. Let's say I wanted to know some more about this text right here. What I can do is actually right click on it and click on Inspect Element. And if I click on an element in particular, it will actually be highlighted for me. So you can see that it jumped right away to the correct tag, which is an H1, shared knowledge, and then there's a span in there as well that says for the open web. So let's take a look at the H1. And over here, I get all of the styles. So the first one is color. If I change that, the color of that H1 changes. So let's say I wanted to know the font. So I would scroll down, and at some point, someone at Mozilla wrote the styles that applies a font here. The thing is, and this is what we're going to focus on in the next few videos, is that this might be inherited from another selector somewhere. So it might have been applied to the entire body, not just H1s directly. So if we scroll down, it looks like it's right here. Font family, Open Sans Light, Helvetica, Arial, Sans Serif. And that looks like that does it. So this is not to show you how we actually do fonts. That's a separate video coming up soon. This is just to show you that if you wanted to find something out about a page, let's say I wanted to know what type of element are these buttons right here, this little GitHub icon. I can select this magnifying glass and hover over things and click, and it will show me right here that's an eye. So an eye is another tag used for icons, and we can see all the styles over here. So same thing, if I want to see what element this is here, I can click on it once I have the magnifying glass, and I see that it's an anchor tag. And it looks like, so it's not an image tag, it's an anchor tag. So that must mean that they're setting a background image somewhere. And let's see where that is. Oh, here we go. They're setting the background image to be this image right here. So to summarize all of this, I just wanted to demonstrate that you can open up this inspector in Google Chrome and you can view HTML and you can view CSS. And not only can you view it, but you can manipulate it, you can interact with it, you can try changing things, and you can do that on your own sites, or you can do that on anyone else's site. And so it's really useful when you want to go out and replicate somebody's design, or you want to replicate an effect. And when we get to JavaScript, you'll actually see we can do the exact same thing for JavaScript as well.